Do I need to be? Yes, I should be.
Okay, the 10th verse already. Okay. All right. Hare Krishna. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Maharaj.
Thank you.
So we will have a couple minutes Kirtan. Usually we have Ekendra Prabhu. Somehow it looks like he hasn't made it yet. So I'll just get started with a little bit Kirtan. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Go Brahmande Hare
Om Vishnupad Paramahංsa Parivrajakacharya Stoutra Sattvi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Gaur Premanande.
Hare Hare Bol. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you, dear devotees, for joining. So we will continue this evening, this Friday evening, on the second chapter of the second canto. So we are on verse number 10. And as always, feel free to participate. Don't be shy about asking questions. You can type them in the chat box here, or you can raise your hand and we'll try to call upon you for asking your audio question. And pass it on to Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyanatimirantasya Gananjana Shalakaya. Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale. Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam. Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapatakamalam. Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha. Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitamstam Surivam. Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamsri. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshako Patarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're continuing with the vivid description of the Lord in the heart. Unnidra Hrit Pankaja Karni Kaliye Yogeshwara Sthapita Padapallavam Sri Lakshanam Kaustuba Ratna Kandharam Amlana Lakshmiya Vana Malayachitam. His lotus feet are placed on the whirl of the lotus hearts of the devotees, the great mystics. On his chest is the Kaustuba jewel, Sri Lakshanam, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. The Hrit Pankaja Karnikalaye Yogeshwara Sthapita Padapallavam. Sri Lakshanam can be either the Srivatsa, the Srivatsa. So the Srivatsa mark is either the mark of Lakshmi on the chest of the Lord, or Vatsa also means calf. So a Sri Vatsa is a beautiful calf. And Kaustuba Ratna, and the Kaustuba jewel. So here the translation takes it that the beautiful calf is engraved on the jewel. Otherwise, it can also be read that the Lord has the Kaustuba jewel and the mark of Lakshmi on his chest. The purport is significant. They're all significant. The ornaments, flowers, clothing, and all the other decorations on the transcendental body of the personality of Godhead are identical with the body of the Lord. None of them are made of material ingredients. Otherwise, there would be no chance of their decorating the body of the Lord. As such, in the Parvyom, the spiritual sky, spiritual varieties are also distinguished, not distinct from, material variegatedness. Everything is alive. Everything is spiritual. These are not just ordinary ornaments. They're Sachit Ananda ornaments. They have spiritual existence. And so the whole picture of the Lord is spiritual. His form, his smile, and then his helmet, his Kostuba gem, everything is of the same spiritual nature. Vibhushitam Mekala Yanguliyakair Mahadhanar Nupura Kankanadi P Snigdhamala Kunchita Nila Kuntalar Virachamanana Hasa Peshala. Sorry, I'm not reading very well. The light is not the greatest here. It's just I'm in a different place today. He's well decorated with an ornamental wreath about his waist and rings with valuable jewels on his fingers. He has bangles, curling bluish hair, and a beautiful smiling face. He's the most beautiful person amongst all others, and Sukadeva Goswami describes every part of his transcendental beauty, one after another, to teach the impersonalist that the personality of Godhead is not an imagination by the devotee for facility of worship. He is the Supreme Person in fact and figure. The impersonal feature is but his radiation, as sun rays are but radiations from the sun. So all of these descriptions are meant to purify the heart and promote the yogi or devotee to direct experience of the Lord's transcendental form. The Lord is not formless. He's not an impersonal glow. He's a person, and his features are being described. Any questions or comments so far? What's the difference between the great mystics and the mediocre ones? Well, let's see what the word is here. Yogi Ishvara, the controllers of yoga, Yogeshvara. That's who's being described. So there are those who are accomplished. They're not just bogey yogis, not people who are fooling around, not people who are just trying to make a show. But Yogeshvara, they actually are accomplished in yoga. Of course, even to be a mediocre yogi is something great. But that's the word, Yogeshvara. Anything else? Oh, yes. Makes sense to me, Kendra says, that Krishna, as the absolute truth, is the origin of all other forms, because everyone to some degree or other is trying to look like him. The physicalist view can't explain this. Yeah, everybody else wants to look beautiful. Everybody else wants to have ornaments and so on. Everyone else wants to be youthful, ever youthful. The Lord is described here as ever youthful. And you go through the main section of the pharmacy, that is to say, the health and beauty section, and so much is dedicated to which is sustaining or giving the illusion, really, of youthful beauty, even after it's gone. Youthful beauty doesn't last very long, really. We could do a dissertation on it and do some sort of calculation how long youthful beauty lasts, but it's really not very long. And then after that, it's all trying to fudge it and fake it and paint it and make it, create a show. But yes, everyone wants to be in some way great like Krishna. But everyone wants to be at least somewhat beautiful, somewhat wise, somewhat intelligent, somewhat powerful, somewhat wealthy, as much as possible in all of these things. But Krishna is the greatest in all departments. Thank you for that. Adina, Lila, Hasite, Hasite Kshanolasa, Brubhanga. Wow. Brubhanga Samsuchita Puryu Yanugraham Iksheta Chintamayam Enam Isharam Yavanmano Dharanaya Vatishtate. The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing glancing of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on this transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed upon him by meditation. So, Dharanaya Avastite, one should be situated in meditation, fixing the mind, ikshate, seeing actually, this beautiful form of the Lord, Puri Anugraham, who's giving extensive benedictions, indicated by his smiling face and his other features. The purport, there's a lot in the purport here, so we'll scan through it. First, there's the Bhagavad Gita says, Klesho dikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasam. The avyakta sakta chetasam. Those who are trying to fix their minds on something impersonal have a tough time because there's nothing to fix the mind on. But those who fix their minds on the personality of Godhead in devotion are superior. That's Krishna's answer to a direct question in the 12th chapter. Arjuna asks, who are better? Those who are faithfully pursuing impersonal realization or those who are engaged in devotional service? And those who are engaged in devotion are better. So now let's see what else, to the extent that the light will allow me, we can see. Process of meditation, bhakti yoga. After liberation from material conditions. That is to say, bhakti yoga is the postgraduate stage. Jnana yoga is the process of liberation after one is liberated. When one is nivritta, as previously stated, freed from all material necessities, one becomes qualified to discharge the process of bhakti yoga. Bahunam janmanamante gyanavan mam prapadyate. It's the postgraduate stage. The bhakti yoga includes jnana yoga. In other words, pure devotional service simultaneously serves the purpose of jnana yoga, liberation from material conditions, by the gradual development of pure devotional service. These effects of bhakti yoga are called anartha nivritti. Anartha nivritti, artha means that which has value, that which has meaning, And anartha, that which is worthless, that which is meaningless. And nivritti, getting rid of, extinguishing, erasing. So anartha nivritti, things which are artificially acquired, gradually disappear along with the process of bhakti yoga. And Prabhupada will talk more about what those anarthas are about. Meditation on the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, the first processional step, we start with meditation on the feet, must show its effect by anartha nivritti. The grossest type of anartha, which binds the conditioned soul and material existence, is sex desire. And this sex desire gradually develops in the union of the male and female. When the male and female are united, the sex desire is further aggravated by the accumulation of buildings, children, relatives, friends, and wealth. When all of these are acquired, the conditioned soul becomes overwhelmed by such entanglements, and the false sense of egoism, the sense of myself and mine, becomes prominent. And the sex desire expands to various political, social, altruistic, philanthropic, and many other unwanted engagements, resembling the foam of the sea waves, which becomes very prominent at one time and at the next moment vanishes as quickly as a cloud in the sky. Pumsastriya maituni palametam tayar etar tayar hridaya grantamahu ata griha kshetra sutapta vittai janasyamo hoyam hamameti. So anartha, just what everybody wants, is what Prabhupada calls unwanted. Anartha. First of all, the body is unwanted, but then this sex is like the biological lock that binds one to material existence. And therefore, the yoga system or devotional service is meant for freeing the heart from that strong attraction. When the sex desire is prominent, and then there's a combination of man and woman, then griha, kshetra, sutta, apta, vittai, home, property, children, money, relatives, and other things. Prabhupada mentions political activities, because the politics are meant to further our interests in terms of I and mine. Then there's social interests, again, I and mine. Then altruistic and philanthropic engagements, Prabhupada also calls unwanted. Also unwanted, because again, they're in terms of this body, and they're extensions of material selfish interest, only expanded. The most selfish just cares about himself, then selfishness is extended to the family members, then maybe to community, and so on. But it's all like the foam of sea waves, which appears and evaporates. The conditioned soul is encircled by such products, as well as products of sex desire. Therefore, bhakti yoga leads to gradual evaporation of the sex desire, which is summarized in 3 headings, namely profit, adoration, and distinction. The Rajaguna Samudbhavaha, Kamesha, Krodhesha, Rajaguna Samudbhava. So the sex desire is connected with the mode of passion, and the whole thing heats up, and then one wants profit, money, where's money, where's money, where's money? His whole life is around money. And adoration and distinction. One wants to be somebody in the world. One wants to be praised and adored. And one wants to be, distinction. He's recognized. But all of this is generated from sex desire. So how the sex desire is really something. It's pulling in this whole, pulls one into a whole vortex of material forces. A maelstrom is material forces. So all conditioned souls are mad after these different forms of sex desire. And one shall see for himself how much he has been freed from such material hankerings, based primarily on the sex desire. So anartha nivritti means essentially curbing down sex desire or evaporating, washing away sex desire. That's like the top of the column of anarthas, or practically you can just put that as the label for all the others. There's like subcategories: profit, fame, adoration, philanthropic activities, social activities, family interests, mine, all springing from this sex desire. As a person feels his hunger satisfied after eating each morsel of food, he must similarly be able to see the degree to which he has been freed from sex desire. The sex desire is diminished along with its various forms by the process of bhakti yoga, because bhakti yoga automatically, by the grace of the Lord, effectively results in knowledge and renunciation, even if the devotee is not materially very well educated. Bhaktir parasyanubhavo viraktir anyatracha. The real sign of advancement in devotional service is not your clothes or your so many things, your profile, but it's how much are we freed from sex desire. The more one is freed from sex desire, the more one is understood to be making progress, or the more one can understand within oneself how he's making progress. We've previously discussed that the transcendentalist is required to be self-sufficient. He shouldn't beg from the rich blind persons to fulfill the necessities of life. Sukadeva Goswami suggested some alternatives for the problems of eating, sleeping, and shelter, but not for sex satisfaction. No alternative there. For shelter, you can simplify, live in a cave. For clothes, you can wear tree bark. For water, you can get it from the river. But sex desire, one who has sex desire still with him, should not at all try to accept the renounced order of life. For one who has not attained to that stage, there's no question of a renounced order of life. In Bhagavad Gita, Sannyasastu mahabaho dukam aptum ayogataha. For one who's not Krishna consciousness, sannyas is just misery, because he's living in the renounced order, but he's full of sex desire, or even doing things to try to satisfy sex desire, which means hypocrisy. So therefore, Prabhupada said, better to be an honest street sweeper than a pseudo sannyasi. by the gradual process of devotional service under the guidance of a proper spiritual master, following the principles of Bhagavatam, one must be able at least to control the gross sex desire before one accepts the renounced order of life, actually. So this is, a must. There's no monkeying around in the renounced order. That's just a mockery, Prabhupada says elsewhere. Sannyas means sannyas. Detachment. Detachment from what? Detachment from sex. If we're not detached from sex, if we're still hankering for the association of woman, if we're still want to have some secret arrangement for sex, then no, don't go near the renounced order. That's just degradation. Purification means getting free gradually from sex desire. Again and again, it's like a drumbeat here. This is what purification is. This is what bhakti yoga is. This is what human life is. Gradual freedom from sex desire. This is attained by meditation on the person of the Lord, as described herein, beginning from the feet. So this is why we're doing this. Not the only reason, but we're meditating on the beautiful form of the Lord so that we can forget the so-called beauty of this material world, so that our desire can be the desire to, our attraction can be the attraction to Krishna, not the attraction to temporary material forms. So one meditates especially on the lotus feet of the Lord to purify the mind so that one can get freed from this bondage, which is characterized especially, which is headlined by sex desire. One should not try to go upwards artificially without seeing for himself how much he's been released from the sex desire. And then Prabhupada explains that the first two cantos of Bhagavatam are like the lotus feet of the Lord. 10th canto is like his smiling face. The smiling face of the Lord is the 10th canto, and there are many upstarts who at once try to begin with the 10th canto, and especially with the 5 chapters that delineate the Ras Lila. This is certainly improper. Such improper study or hearing of Bhagavatam, by this the material opportunists have played havoc by indulgence in sex life in the name of Bhagavatam. They're reading 10th canto, they're reading the Rasa Lila, and they're, what shall we say, playing up to the material conceptions of the audience. The audience wants to hear something about sex. It's all dressed up like religion, it's all dressed up like dharma, it's all dressed up like sadhu sangha, it's all dressed up as Bhagavad Gita, but really the audience wants to hear about sex. And they're just, like there's a lot of things like that. Like Prabhupada talked about sports, we want to see women's tennis, for example. So what is that women's tennis? It means seeing how beautiful the woman looks when she's moving on the tennis court. Ballet, so many things. It means appreciating the beautiful form of woman. That means sex desire. So in the name of art, in the name of academic study, they're studying sex. In the name of art, in the name of research, in the name of, I saw a poster. It was very interesting. I was in Greece, and there was a poster. I couldn't read it. It was in Greek, but it was a revolutionary poster of some sort. down with. And there's a guy there with a rifle and a bandolier, and his girlfriend, similarly done up, so a beautiful revolutionary couple, right? So it combines the best of two worlds, revolution and sex. This is so often we find this protest movements. So they're protesting against injustice, they're protesting against political oppression, and at the same time, the men and women are meeting, and so many things are going on. So similarly, Bhagavad Gita, but really it's improperly done by those whose hearts are not purified, and therefore, really we're just finding a misunderstanding, and so we're grooving on thoughts of sex instead of thoughts of the Lord as he is. By such improper study, sex indulgence. The vilification of Bhagavatam this vilification is rendered by the so-called devotees. One should be free from all sex desire before he tries to make a show of reciting Bhagavatam. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said, as one gets free from the intoxication of sex indulgence by purification of intelligence, one should step forward for the next meditation, or in other words, the progress on the different limbs of the body of the Lord should be enhanced in proportion to the progress of purification of heart. The more we become free from sex desire, the more we become eligible to move upward in appreciating the form of the Lord. Those who are still entrapped by sex indulgence should never progress to meditation above the feet of the Lord. Therefore, recital of Srimad Bhagavatam by them should be restricted to the first and second cantos of the great literature. One must complete the purificatory process by assimilating the contents of the first 9 cantos. Then one should be admitted to the realm of the 10th. Now we have some questions here. I've been building up. Let's see what's going on here.
And Maharaj, there are a few questions, but I think if you scroll to the last 3, there's questions on this particular topic, on sex desire.
Okay.
And then Surendra, once you get through those, if we have time, Surendra has a question he wants to ask you in person on that topic itself.
Okay, good. Latina says, when you say that Bhakti Yoga is postgraduate, is that the first of the 3?
No, this one after that, if reduction of sex desire.
Okay, let's see what's happening. If reduction of sex desire is the barometer that you're advancing spiritually, why does Krishna create any grahastha pure devotees? Prabhupada himself, the Pandavas, King Priyavrata, etc. Actually, these things are for reducing sex desire. It's not that the grahastha ashram is meant for proliferation. Now it's like you turn the key and you enter the garden and there's paradise, the sexual Disneyland. The grahastha ashram is actually for spiritual advancement, and there's some scope for sex, but it's quite restricted. Real grahastha life means very restricted sex. And those who are advanced in grahastha life, they're not after sex and sex and sex. As a duty, they get married, they perform their prescribed activities. Sex is also included, there's some scope, but it's actually for reducing sex desire, not for increasing it. It's, what should we say? You know, those who have some sex desire and they're not married, it's like always there, you know. What about this? What about that? What about this person? Well, maybe that person, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. What about this and what about that? It's all a kind of madness driven by sex desire. So the marriage means, all right, let's just settle the business. You know, like you're going to buy a new car, right? So should I get a Toyota, or should I get a Lexus, or should I get a Ford, or should I get a BMW, or should I get a this, or should I get that? Should it be yellow? Should it be mustard color? Should it be this? Should it be that? Your mind's all on the car, on the car, on the car, on the car, on the car. But finally you buy a car and you're done with it. You know, it's like, okay, I got a car. You know, it's settled up. A car or a house or whatever it is. So the same thing. I got a husband. I got a wife. All right. And then you find quite quickly that it's full of, that householder life is full of duties and full of responsibilities and full of, so the nature of it is that when performed properly, when accepted properly, the householder ashram reduces sex desire, doesn't stimulate it and increase it. It's meant for restriction, actually. I hope that answers the question. Kendra says, my understanding is that Srila Prabhupada gave sannyas to so many young men as an emergency measure to increase the preaching, despite so many warnings against taking sannyas when one is not freed from sex desire. Is that a proper understanding? Yes, Prabhupada sometimes, he created sannyasis certainly for the purpose of preaching. And he said, yes, because it's necessary. Otherwise, even from, you know, why do we have to get into all these this varnashram stuff? Why create sannyasis? Prabhupada created them especially for preaching. Especially for preaching. And then why young men? That's all he had. Go back to 1977, turn back the clock to 1972, 1975, up to 1977. That's what Prabhupada had. They were all young men. All the men that we see around us now who are in their 70s or late 60s, you know, they were 20, 25 during Prabhupada's time. So that's what Prabhupada had. And therefore he gave, at some risk, he gave sannyas to young men because he had to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. One time, but Prabhupada saw that it was problematic that the young sannyasis had difficulties also. One time I heard Prabhupada was musing about it, and he said, my godbrothers are criticizing me for giving sannyas to young men. And they are right. So ideally, sannyas should be given to those who are a little, who are either older or quite fit, quite fit.
All right.
Yes.
At this point, because I'm trying to keep track of who asked when. So I think Surendra had a question on this topic, and then Athena closes out with her final question on this topic, and then we can go back to the other questions.
Okay, thank you for navigating here. So let's hear Surendra's question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is, as you said about the Grihastha life, and when someone enters into the Grihastha life, Sutapta and all those things will come. But then the problem comes is the supporting itself, and the way I think is that I should have some regular source of income after retirement. Now, for that, I think that I should do this and do that, and the income is minimum than what I'm making now. so that I can serve at the temple, regular source of income because there is no pension, nothing. And then with that Lakshmi, I can give a little bit donation or this or that. So if I'm thinking like that, is it something not proper here? Is it okay that I'm thinking and working on that so that I can have a peaceful retirement? I just want to hear something from you. What is the opinion in the scriptures and your...
Your question is whether it's proper to be putting aside money for retirement. Am I right?
Let's put it that way. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As far as I understand, it is, because even the Goswamis, Prabhupada always cites the example. They gave 50% for the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. They gave 25% for their relatives to satisfy them, and 25% they kept against emergencies. So the Grahastha, with his prudent planning, can be thinking that this much for now, this much for later. I don't see a problem with that. I don't have a specific quotation. Sannyasis, they shouldn't be putting aside money for later. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be unhappy if the sannyasis were keeping food for the next day. Just depends on Krishna. But grahasthas are in a different position. They have an establishment to maintain. So for the grahasthas, they can make money and they can put something aside. Actually, not so much for their own retirement, but the wife should be taken care of. They can be thinking like that. And with the understanding also that there's no guarantee. That I'll make a plan, I'll try to put something aside, but there's no guarantee. I may be able to do it, I may not be able to do it, I may get wiped out. Fortunes can go that way. So I'll make a prudent plan, but finally the most prudent plan is to depend on Krishna. Depend on Krishna doesn't mean I won't plan, but I have to be flexible, I have to be adaptable, that I'll make a plan, I'll try to keep some money. Prabhupada also, he had an idea he was going to make money, and Krishna busted it. Totally busted it.
But another thing is, you said the sannyasi should not keep any money, but I think that it is a grahastha's responsibility. If he wants to serve the spiritual master and sannyasi, then he should have some money to serve and support the mission and the sannyasis. So
that's generally the idea. Not that, yes, the sannyasis, the grahasthas are supposed to be the supply source of money for the other ashrams. It's not exactly that they should be looking for money because I have to support this, I have to support that, but they support themselves. And if you're going to support yourselves, you should pay tax.
Yeah.
Right? That's another way of looking at it. One way is, of course, and everyone will have his own destiny. Who was that? Well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had some very rich followers. Who am I thinking of? Gadadhar Pandit was sent to him.
Pundarik Vidyanidhi.
Pundarik Vidyanidhi. He was wealthy and opulent. And then there's Kolavetra Sridhar, who's eking out a living selling banana tree bark cups, cups made from banana tree bark. So according to our destiny, some of us will have money, some of us will not have very much money. That's not really within our control. If it's your destiny, practically money will fall from the sky. There's some people, when money sees them, where have you been all my life? Money starts rushing toward them. And there are other people, money sees them and heads off in the opposite direction. So we can't just expect that because I have a plan, because I'm being prudent, it's guaranteed I'll have money. I can try, I can make the arrangement, but finally I have to be ready to accept whatever Krishna provides, whatever Krishna decides about my life. But yes, it's not wrong as a grahastha to be thinking that, all right, I have to put some money aside for retirement and I have to give charity to the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. That's grahastha life.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Tina's last. Not last, but the next. There's never a last here.
The
concept that grahastha life is hard for preaching due to all family is the concept that grahastha life is hard for preaching due to all the family duties. That said, I heard grahastha ashram is good for preaching, given home programs, etc. Well, it's not just conceptual. I think if you talk to grahasthas, you'll find that grahastha life can be awfully burdensome. So many hours a day are spent just working. Where's money? Where's money? Or we know where the money is, but I have to sell my body and mind to some employer for 6 or 8 hours a day so that I'll have money. So that naturally means that time is not being spent in preaching. That's being spent for earning money. So that's a huge chunk of my life. And then, yes, when you get back from work, then there are other family duties. You have to see to this, you have to see to that. So the amount of energy that's available for preaching is generally less. The brahmacharis and sannyasis, they don't have to earn a living. They don't have to worry about their wife is freaking out because blah, 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 or the, little Krishnadas broke his leg or this or that or the other thing, or he lost his shoes or whatever it is. They don't have to think about these things. So they're completely free for bhajan and preaching. That said, those who are serious grahasthas will still find capability for preaching. They may organize their householder life in such a way that they really knock their material necessities down to very bare minimum. They don't get involved really in a job and a big house and a car and a this and a that. They just preach. And yes, they're married, but they're preaching. That's their main focus. So that's also possible. Or they're expert, so they make their money, they keep their householder life together, but they still have energy for preaching. They still have time and energy for that. And then, yes, the grahastha ashram can be favorable from the point of view that people see, oh, there's a husband and a wife, okay. People can relate to that. People can appreciate, oh, then it's not all monks. So that's good. And if the wife is a real devotee and not a witch, then she's an inspiration for devotional service. She's encouraging the husband to serve Krishna, to carry on with his preaching programs. She's inspiring and giving energy for the preaching. So it becomes an advantage. The woman is naturally inspires a man or activates a man, but in material life, it's activating sense gratification. Wouldn't it be nice if we did this? Wouldn't it be nice if we did that? Wouldn't it be nice if we could have this? Wouldn't it be nice if we could have that? And so on. Or bitchy, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? How do you expect us to do that? So the wife can be a real burden, or the wife can be an advantage, so that the good wife becomes like good intelligence, encouraging the husband always in spiritual progress in so many ways. So then it's favorable. Now, let's see. Where's my navigator? Where am I going next? Shodatula Prabhu. We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, no, there are a few questions above what you read, Maharaj.
Okay, let's see where we are.
Scroll back up.
Right. Okay, I see there's Rasa has a question. In regards to the material world being a reflection of the spiritual world, is that a complete reflection? Yeah, complete reflection means an incomplete image. You know, like a complete reflection of a banana is not really a banana. It's a complete reflection, but the complete reflection is a poor substitute and not the real thing. For example, the dark aspects of the material world. I know Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the Lord's mind there's good and bad elements. Is this the reason for the darkness of the material world versus as being a reflection of the spiritual world? And it's a perverted reflection, Prabhupada said. So to give the example, the Prabhupada's talking about sex desire. In the spiritual world, the attraction between man and woman is the highest thing. The attraction between Radha and Krishna is the purest and the most wonderful thing. And in the material world, it's an anartha. It's, Prabhupada says, it's anartha number one. It's a problem. And we think, you know, it's glorified, love, love, love. Love makes the world go round. All you need is love. But love is like the start of all your problems. It's because of love that people are working so hard. It's because of love that nations are fighting against one another. They've expanded their love for their family to their love of country. And because I love my country, I hate yours. And we fight for economic and geopolitical advantages. So the reflection is a perverted reflection. That's the problem. Why is it a perverted reflection? Because we turn away from Krishna. We turn away from Krishna. Let's see what's coming next. Gurudas says, how do I say this? Krishna created us. This chat box is really a problem. I don't know if you have this, but when you try to scroll, it doesn't scroll evenly. All right, let's...
You want me to read it or you're okay?
I'm working on it. I expanded my text box horizontally. Let's see if I get more this way. But it's really witchy. How do I say this? Krishna created us, so we have the mentality to meditate, and he appears in a pleasing, beautiful form, just suited to perfection of meditation. There's so many beautiful descriptions in the Bhagavatam of the Lord in yellow dress and so on. So in one sense, we are meant to actually meditate on that beautiful form. So one who's on the path is encouraged to meditate on Sri Krishna in fullness, according to his descriptions. Yet one who is not very far upon the path has to convince his mind this image is of ultimate beauty, is factual, and not an arrangement to get the mind to meditate. Not only is he of extraordinary beauty, he's in our heart. Another challenge for the speculator to manage. Yeah, one has to be purified. Of course, even if one is impure, if one is not advanced in understanding, if one has doubts and impurities, and doubts or impurities in the heart, by seeing this beautiful form, one becomes purified. By seeing the beautiful form, one becomes purified. One sees, yes, this is real. Krishna is transcendentally attractive. When I say that Bhakti Yoga is the postgraduate, are you referring to just within the 4 paths of yoga? Or is there also a hierarchy within the bona fide paths, one better than the other, Judaism better than Christianity, etc., etc.? And if so, what is that hierarchy? Are there bona fide paths for lower consciousness people? What determines then why one follows one path versus the other? If we have to assume there are pure devotees in all bona fide paths, not just the Bhakti Yoga path, is it true that one has perhaps gone through all these other bona fide paths, Christianity, Islam, etc., to finally get to Bhakti Yoga? Technically, is there a difference between Krishna consciousness and God consciousness? Does it depend on the context we are speaking? Okay, that's Athena. The first thing is that the way Prabhupada gives it to us, the way Bhagavatam gives it to us, the real hierarchy goes like this. At the bottom are the sense gratifiers. Well, at the bottom are the animals, really. And then the unregulated human beings. You'll find this hierarchy in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The animals, then the men who are like animals, unregulated. Then those who are following some religious principles. Then gradually we get to those who have an impersonal point of view. Or there are those who are, first of all, they're following regulative principles, they're performing sacrifices, they're pious, they're doing something to acknowledge their debt to God or demigods. Then we come to the impersonalists. They're higher than the materialists. The materialists are basically on the platform of sense gratification. And the impersonalists are freed from that, so they pity the materialists. They pity the materialists who are so wrapped up in the complexities of material life. But the impersonalists don't have the understanding of the personality of Godhead. And therefore the devotees pity the impersonalists. So the devotees pity the impersonalists. So then we come to the stage of devotion. And then, yes, you can say that there's different stages. But I don't see why we would just divide it up and say Islam is one, Judaism is another. The real thing is Savai Pumsam Parod Dharmo. Yato Bhakti. How much are you developing your love for God? It's not just that those who are wearing the Christian tag are more advanced than those who are wearing the Jewish tag. Those who are wearing the Hindu tag are more advanced than those who are wearing the Christian tag. It's not that kind of hierarchy. But the hierarchy is, how much are you becoming free from sex desire? Material, how much are you becoming free from anarthas, from unwanted things within the heart? And proportionately then, how much are we becoming attached to the personality of Godhead? That's the real hierarchy. And then we can say that even when we come to God consciousness, there are sort of religious ideas where the idea is really not much above impersonalism. God is everywhere, God is everything, God is love, God is this and that. So the more we advance in personal understanding of Godhead, the more we're making progress. And the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are presenting that here's the perfection of personal understanding. Even the Vaikuntha form of the Lord is not as full a manifestation of Godhead as Krishna in Vrindavan. So in Vrindavan, we find the fullest manifestation of love. No one in Vaikuntha can show this kind of spontaneous love that forms the daily affairs of Vrindavan. You can compare. You look at this scripture, that scripture, this religious idea, that religious idea, and see if you find anything as exalted and as deep as Krishna's, as the presentation of Krishna. But, so that's from one point of view. And from another point of view, any devotee of God is appreciated. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the Narad Muni starts by meeting a exalted king who's a devotee and using his wealth in performing great sacrifices and so on. And then he goes up to more advanced devotees, because he's looking, who are the greatest devotees? And finally he comes up to the gopis and he sees that here are the greatest devotees. After he meets Hanuman and Prahlad and the Pandavas and so on. But then at the end, it's said that even though this hierarchy is there, even though we've gone from the from a pious king all the way up to the gopis, and we've seen that a progressive advancement, still it's absolute. So all the devotees are on the same transcendental platform. Jay Bhaje She Bada Bhakti Char. Those who are engaged in the service of Krishna, they're great. Krishna means God. Jay Bhaje She Bada. And those who are non-devotees, they're the ones who are wretched. I think that's it for time. I see there's a lot more questions. We had a long purport today with a lot going on in it, so that meant less time for questions. But we'll have more times, more opportunities next time. If you have a question that really you'd like to have explored, then bring that to the next class. Actually, not the next class. Next class, we're going to talk about Balaram Katha. That's Monday. But after that, hold on to your questions and bring them up. If you bring them up at the beginning, then that's fine. Just let me know, and we'll continue. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. If devotees can stay on for just a minute, just a few quick announcements. You can actually find information about Maharaj on his website, jswami.info. You can see that, jswami.info, and find out about his articles and also make contributions, donations, if you wish, to him here, right? And it's very easy. The travel and online schedule, obviously he is in Towaco right now, and his online schedule Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Towaco Sangha, on this Sangha, and on Thursday, the Vanaprastha adventure. You can go to his website to get the Zoom link, and on Facebook, you can type in the Vanaprastha adventure and join that group. We've been making announcements about the new temple construction for which started, or the groundbreaking for which started a few days ago. And actually Madan Gopal's put up a video an hour or two ago on the same channel where all these videos are posted, MG Das. It's a 3-minute video that shows what happened today. So you can check that out on MG Das. Tomorrow, Saturday, no program in the evening at 8 p.m. But together with the Bhakti Center, Towaco, ISKCON of Central New Jersey, ISKCON of New York, that is Brooklyn, and Gita Nagari, tomorrow will be part 4 of a 6-part series with Sachinandan Swami, A Life in Bhakti. That starts at 9 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. It's too late for the folks in Australia who are on, but it's wonderful for the people in the UK and Europe and even in India. So that's tomorrow at 9 a.m. New York time with Sachinandan Swami. And then on this Sangha, Sunday night will be Radhika Raman Prabhu. We haven't had him for the past 6 weeks, and he will be back on Sunday. And then Monday, as Maharaj said, he will be speaking about Lord Balaram on Balaram Jayanti. And on Sunday, on Sunday, we will show the schedule for next week. But a quick preview, Amarendra Prabhu is on Tuesday. He's going to talk about Sri Krishna, the sweet Lord of Vraja. And on Thursday, we're going to have Shesha Prabhu's wife. Many of you might know Shesha Prabhu, that's why I mentioned it that way. Madhumati Devi. She's going to be speaking on this channel next Thursday. So stay tuned, and we'll see all of you online. I will unmute everyone. Hopefully I'm as good at this as Madan Gopal is. And people can say Haribol to Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavati Pranam Maharaj.
Dandavad Pranam.
Haribol Maharaj.
Hi Maharaj, thank
Dandavati
you very
Pranam
much.
Maharaj. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
People can say Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol. Jai. Last Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahesh Prabhu.
नाम भी बोल दे वापस.
All right.
Maharaj, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Jai.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Will you see me 3 times a week? So
Hare
we
Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
can cut short. Hare Krishna. All right.
Maharaj, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Like a loop.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Jai.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare